Welcome to the Competitive 40k podcast. This is a Warhammer 40k podcast where we analyse the meta and develop strategies to help you become a better competitive 40k player. I'm your host, Stephen Box, and it is my mission to help raise the standard of the game, both on and off the tabletop. So if you're an ambitious 40k player, or potentially one in the making, looking to get into the competitive 40k scene, and you want to make an impact at the tabletop, then you are in the right place. This is episode number 16, and we're going to be covering all things 9th edition, what we know so far about the new release of 9th edition, and also some of our predictions as to what we might see using our experience of the game and also previous editions. And on this week's show, I'm going to be joined by Jack and Joe. So let's jump into that episode right now. Welcome to the show, Jack. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, Steve. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And Joe, how are you?
I'm good. Less hot in here today.
Yeah, it's less hot in the studio. So this is actually our first time recording from the studio. The new Vanguard Tactics studio that is now up and running, as you can see from our beautiful, if you're watching on YouTube anyway, if you're listening on the podcast, you just have to imagine how great this logo looks on the wall. So, or you can go to YouTube and check this out, as this is now a video cast. We thought we would take it to that next level. And as I said, today we're joined by Jack, and also we're joined by Joe Coles, back on the show today. So today we're going to be talking about all things 9th edition. As I mentioned, guys, we're going to be talking all things 9th edition on this episode. And we thought what we would do is cover in a very concise way what we've already heard from not only the preview that came out on the Saturday and also the live Q&A with some of our educated predictions. So we're not privy to any previews or anything like that. We, haven't heard any. These aren't rumours. These are just our educated guesses based on our experience in the game, what we would kind of do as game designers. So we're really interested in your thoughts as well. So Jack, generally, what's your perception of what we've heard so far?
I feel like a big theme that's running through is getting rid of feel bad moments in the game, which is great. With capping minuses, potentially sixes always hit, and things like that, and they've made some tweaks then to other phases of the game. So I think that's a very good step in the right direction, to remove those from the game.
Nice, yeah. So what we're going to do, guys, on this show is we're going to cover each point that we've looked at. And we're going to look at this from a more competitive side with a competitive lens. And obviously there's some great sounding things like, I must admit, even the Crusade sounded quite good from some of the things that they spoke about. We could even do, for all of our battle reports, we could have an ongoing Crusade during those battle reports as well. So there is like a theme, like we can still play competitively, but with our armies, maybe there's another element there. But so love that side of things as well, but we are going to be taking a bit more of a competitive lens through this. Joe, what's your just general thoughts first of all?
I'm actually really excited about it. Change is always good. I think there's, like Jack said, the feel bad moments and they go away. GW putting more emphasis on streamlining the game and taking away ambiguity, which is a big thing. Like nice. It takes the confusion out of the game, which I'm looking forward to.
And any concerns?
Penalty to falling back out of combat is going to be a concern for things like my Ravagers, because you don't want to stay in combat with those because they'll just fly apart. So, but not really. I'm kind of, it's one of those, like, I don't want to feel bad about something I don't know everything about. If that makes sense. So I think I'm gonna wait and see, but I think we can make some good educated guesses. I know Tau, for instance, are going to still be good if they're shooting a full ballistic skill in combat, because you're like, I'm going to charge into this and get shot at, and then I'm going to stand next to it and it's going to shoot me more, and it's going to be horrible. But that's the buff they need, because they can't punch you very hard in combat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I would probably echo those thoughts. Really looking forward to what this new edition brings. Very exciting times for absolutely everyone. And going by what GW have done so far, we're in for an absolute treat, I think. So, every single book that's come out recently, with probably the exception of maybe the Death Watch. I know a lot of people weren't happy with that, but just because it was a little bit of a or here you go, guys, just to sort of tide you over. There wasn't really anything new and exciting, but from some of the things that I picked up from the Q&A is that actually that Overwatch Codex is on its way very soon. So they had a plan in mind, and obviously GW doing a fantastic job of listening to the community, taking feedback on board and making those not maybe necessary changes, because actually 8th edition is a quality game. Yes, there's always going to be things that maybe aren't usable in a competitive sense, but it's still a fantastic game, and if it wasn't, we wouldn't see so many people playing 8th edition. So let's cover the first aspect that we're going to see, and that is terrain. As we know, is going to change. Terrain will be recommended to create a fair and balanced game. So for me, I'm imagining it will be a case of you're playing a 2,000 point game. You should use X amount of pieces, or X amount of pieces per quarter of the table. Whether then it might even go to you should have X amount of ruins, X amount of trees or woods. They probably won't go that far, but they will give a recommendation. What are your thoughts on the terrain, Jack? Just from that aspect there.
So they haven't revealed too much of the detail behind it, but what they have is kind of set out a structure that it'll all be based on depending on the size of the game, and adding in line of sight blocking terrain, which lots of people will be familiar with anyway. So I think they're trying to create a fair and balanced game in general, but in particular in match play. So I think it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. I'm hoping they don't tier in too many new rules and potential debate points. But my honest thought is, from the game that we've been playing, which is based on ITC, I don't see too many fundamental rule changes in terrain for the way that we've been playing the game for the last 2 years, for example.
What about you, Joe?
I'm really liking the idea of having a set amount of terrain on the table, because it means you can kind of make a game plan, no one going in. It's like, I know that going into this game, I've got a minimum of, say, 8 pieces of terrain, 8 big buildings on. So my army's going to get across the table well. Because a lot of time you see pictures from people's homes, people's go to events they go to, and there's 2 buildings on it. Yeah. And if you turn up with a nid list, you're just going to get blown away against an Ultramarines player. But going forward, you can always feel rest assured, and it kind of puts more emphasis on players to kind of get more stuff for when they play at home.
Yeah. So what I like about it is that those new players, or if you go into the club, you've got a guide is what's going to make a fair and balanced table, what a table should look like of terrain. We're experienced enough now. On the academy, I teach people exactly that. We've actually got a module all about event preparation and looking at terrain types and how you prepare for different tables and how you can assess whether that terrain table is a light, heavy or medium board in terms of the amount. And I would really love a range for GW to say, look, if you want to put on a lighter board, go for this amount of pieces. If you want to go for a heavy, so we've got a bit of a spectrum to play on, like the WTC do. There are some tables that are light, but really they are kind of still a good standard of terrain, right the way up to a heavy, which is pure city fight, which is quite good. It means you've got if you were going to an event, it could be, okay, I'm on a mix here. I need to make sure my list can cater for some of those different options, which is good in the list building stages. So I'm happy about that. And then in terms of what Jack said there about things now having a keyword, aren't they? And they'll have a keyword called obscured, which means that maybe that ruin will be an obscured ruin. So just because there's a gap where the glue didn't set properly, and all of a sudden you can see a little sword between that's glowing silver, you can't just shoot at that sword and then kill the entire unit with that one executioner or whatever.
It's like a good thing that will come out of that is there's lots of situations where you've got a unit in terrain but your sword's sticking out, or a Talos's spines are sticking out. But if they add that, if you're in that terrain piece and you're obscured, you can't see. So that removes the faff of you trying to adjust and tweak models in terrain and then trying to agree with your opponent. Can you see or can you not? And it removes that stupid things about hitting a sail and a wing, which is a shame because certain models become unplayable, don't they? If you've got these big funky wings that you can't hide it. So hopefully that should fix that, to be honest.
Let's take the Dark Eldar Ravager, for example. It's one of those that you don't want to be that guy who goes, oh, I can see the tip of... I mean, I don't like being that guy when I can... legally know that I can see the tip of his Ravager, so I can shoot him.
Yeah.
But I don't like calling it because I just feel a bit weird. Or I can see the tip of that Harlequin sword that's pointing in the air, but if you'd have twisted him 90 degrees, I wouldn't have been able to shoot that unit. I don't feel great about saying, but then on the other chance, it also means that my opponent next turn go, okay, cool, the tip of my Ravager could shoot you, and I'm thinking, I just didn't say that because I didn't want to be that guy, but now you are. So it has to work both ways, which I'm looking forward to.
And it actually makes, so weird it sounds, it actually makes people fully build their models as well, because there's so many times I've gone to events and seen people run the Ravagers and the Raiders, and they just haven't put the sails on. So it's just like a completely low, and they put it on at the smallest stick ever, so it's literally just hugging the ground.
Yeah.
So, but that's not the full kit kind of thing. That's not how it's designed to look. So you're kind of modelling for advantage in that way.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see people put more effort into their models as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they know that if I pose my Wraith Knight like doing a pirouette or like doing a long leap, if I stand in behind this building, like he's not going to be able to shot at because of the rules kind of thing.
What they may do is say, look, might be to the base, maybe it's the base size. If your base is hidden behind that terrain, maybe your model is. Who knows what they're going to say? So it's going to be an interesting aspect there in terms of this obscured keyword. So we'll probably see different keywords for woods and all that stuff, because then what they've said is that terrain's going to function differently. So, and it will be more than just a cover save, which means that what we might see is now like a wood, for example. If you're in the wood, then maybe you're -1 to hit along with a +1 cover save. Or we might see potentially, like if you're on a hill, then you actually get +6-inch range to your weapons, so that there's actually some sort of benefit for these aspects of terrain, which would be great. So you think, well, now there's actually a purpose to climbing up that hill rather than it just getting in the way, and I wish it wasn't there.
They've got to make sure that it's kept streamlined though, because like in Age of Sigmar, they have lots of terrain rules, but you roll for them at the start of the game to find out which thing represents what. So you can be like, this hill is inspiring, so I get extra leadership. This giant stone gives me extra casting values to my psychic powers. You need to be able to turn up to a table with your opponent and just go obscured, extra range, better cover, boom, done. Yeah,
it does need to be quick and simple for competitive play, and I think that's going to be something that I really hope, because there's loads of terrain rules like the Mechanicum stuff, isn't it? Like if you're near these pipes, you reroll wounds on your flamers. I mean, that's the point. I don't even know what they do because I've never even used them in a competitive setting. Yeah. What's the only one you've ever used, Jack, for terrain?
It's the crater, -2 to charge.
-2 to charge. Exactly. That's pretty much the only one, isn't it? Or a ruin, infantry can move through it, but nobody else can. Yeah. That's pretty much it, right? And then the other thing as well is they want it to impact the game a little bit more. So maybe what we might see, my prediction here is that maybe vehicles don't have to be in cover. They could just be 50% obscured and they'll get a cover save. So that we might see things like that. Or maybe we might even see, like, if you're completely behind the wood, then it blocks line of sight. But if you're in it, you're just you just get a cover save perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know, it could be loads of different options there. And I'm just drawing from things that I know about previous editions.
I'd like to see, like in the old editions, that if you are obscured, you get the cover save. Because it doesn't make sense that, say, there's someone shooting at you, you're 4 buildings down the line, half your squad's in cover, one guy stood in the open, but because none of you are touching a wall, even though there's like 20 walls in between, you don't get a cover save at all.
Okay.
But that's how it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas you'd be like, well, most of your squad's like well behind all of this. They're now getting a better save because of it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. So, yeah, nice. All right, well, what we'll do is just nip on over to the next section. We're going to have to edit this at 16 minutes 30. Remember that number, Joe. It's going to make you a little bit smaller, Jack. So I can bring up my notes here as well. Okay, so Jack, monsters and vehicles are going to be changing.
Yeah. So they announced on the initial release that tanks could fire into combat, and they confirmed via the QA that also applies to monsters. And they made particular reference to Tyranid monsters becoming quite nasty and interesting, which is great because you don't usually see these. So I'm excited about that. I run a Tau with lots of big monsters in, which are battle suits with riptides and ghost kills and things. And it gets rid of that. A Gretchen tags a Lehman Russ battle tank and it shuts it down for the rest of the game. So that's one of those feel bad moments that you do get. So I think it's right in terms of game mechanics, but it also works in terms of the immersion of getting into the game as well. It makes sense. So I'm I'm very positive about that change. And it then changes the gameplay. So you can't just tag stuff and be a tank battle line and that's it for the rest of the game sorted. It forces you to make different decisions, which is exciting.
Completely agree with that, Jack, what you've said there about obviously the monsters and vehicles. And what they also said was that monsters and vehicles now are going to be able to fight different or in a different way in cover, right? So you don't get this weird thing where you've got a Carnifex, which is literally the analogy they use. You've got an infantry model on a step, but the Carnifex can't attack him. So what we may see introduced now is either a range of melee attacks, so maybe melee is range 2 inches potentially, with some of those larger monsters. So obviously it would represent a larger swing on that sword, or maybe we might even see you measure from the hull of the model.
Yeah.
So that means if your knight is literally 3 stories high, you can fight, within an inch of his hull. So I don't know, we might see a change like that, so it allows it to interact. Or maybe if you just roll your charge roll, you get there, because that's what we don't want is unchargeable units. Yeah. And I've had this come up so many times in competitive play where somebody will go, oh, well, if I put all my models here, you can't charge me. I'm like, that is extremely gamey, isn't it? And it's not thematic in any way. Like if you've got those gene stealers are going to crawl up that building, they're not going to care that you're stood there, just going to jump on you and eat your face off. Yeah. So it's a case of actually, like the WTC have done it really well, along with the ITC. If you make your charge, you can leave your models at the bottom and just claim wobbly model, right? So that could be a rules interaction that we see unanimous, because now what we don't want is that feel bad moment where that club player potentially has gone to his first tournament. Maybe everyone at his club plays exactly by the rule book. So if you fill it out all those ruins, you can't be charged. And you're at turn 3 of the game, and you've gone, oh, well, you can't charge me because I've completely filled out this topper. And the other players, they're like, no, because it's a house rule, really, isn't it? It's a competitive house rule that you can still make that charge. All of a sudden, you've got an awful moment in the game now. Neither player is trying to, bend the rules in any way. One person's playing exactly rules as written, and maybe the other person is playing the more competitive house rules. We can get rid of all that, so the transition between playing with your mates to getting to a tournament is clean, and smooth, and that's what we want, is smooth, clean play, which is exactly what we stand for at Vanguard Tactics. That's why we do this podcast, to help you become aware of these rules interactions, these house rules, these changes, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that will be great. And then in terms of shooting into combat, so let's touch on that a minute. Yeah. What's one of your predictions, Joe, that what we might see there?
I think...
How are they going to do that?
Shooting into combat. I think it'll only be the ones that you're in combat with. I think they might...
Will it though? Who knows?
But yeah,
go on, give us a prediction.
Well, because my prediction is it'll only be the unit that's already in combat, because there's stratagems for other armies that allow them to shoot into combat. So to make those special, they're going to keep those, and then the ones that are locked in combat can still shoot. So when your 3 Lehman Russes get shut down by 150 points worth of Nurglings, then those 3 Lehman Russes can just shoot all the Nurglings away and not have to worry, kind of thing.
So what you're saying is that they might get those vehicles may get the pistol ability.
Yeah.
So like we've seen the stratagem with the Imperial Fist, they get they can turn their bolt weapons into pistols, so they can fire them into combat.
I think they might limit it to what weapons can do it. So on a Lehman Russ, only the hull and the sponson weapons, because they're the protective weapons.
Right.
Because the whole, the turret-mounted battle cannon isn't going to be able to traverse low enough to shoot anything in front of it, and you're probably not going to want to fire that directly into your face.
I think that's a good point, but I think it's you can add in lots of tiers of rules defining. Then have to define which is a defense and an offensive weapon to what then could be used to shoot into combat. So I think for simplicity, I think a tank can fire all its guns at the unit that it's engaged with.
So it could just say, for example, all heavy weapons or whatever weapons are treated as pistol if they're on a vehicle monster.
Or it's just a tank can shoot at anything within an inch.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Or it might be even a case of potentially it becomes a stratagem, which would limit it. So this 1 CP you can fire into combat with that vehicle.
Yeah, maybe.
So then we've still got that element of, like, let's say a combat army of Gene Stealers. Let's say you wrap 3 battle tank commanders and you've done really well to get all those wraps and traps off and tag all those units. Then all of a sudden, only one of them, because you spend a CP once per phase. Maybe that's what it is. You've got to spend those resources. So there's a bit of give and take with it. Or maybe it's what we've seen with the Invictus Warsuit has 1 weapon that can do it. So it could be pick 1 weapon.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that knight's going to be in combat and he's going to be using his battle cannon, he's going to be using his Avenger Catlin, he's going to be using his flamers, and then he's going to be hitting you as well in combat. It might just be pick 1.
I think it's interesting, like a knight is a good example, like a dreadnought is a good example as well, where if you fired all your guns, it'd just be too broken. Like to take Castellan robots, they got a vehicle keyword. Can they lock down to shoot twice and then shoot twice all the time if they're in combat? It'll be a strange interaction. Same with a dreadnought and a knight. Could it shoot you in the shooting phase and then still punch you in the combat phase because they can fight? A tank can't fight in combat, so it's interesting how they're going to deal with that. I don't think there's an easy answer to it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind seeing a pick 1 weapon rather than all, because then all of a sudden those Castellan robots, because they've got 3 shots, I think, haven't they?
Yeah.
So it would just be okay. Each one can have 3 shots. So if you've got a unit of 6, that's only 18 shots or whatever. So rather than 2 million shots, which is then you ain't ever charging that unit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, but they could take that in any way. And then what they also said was blast weapons that are on probably let's be honest, primarily vehicles and monsters and stuff that have this new blast weapon. A lot of people said, blast template's coming back. They're not, from what I've gathered. D6 is still a thing, the random shots, but what they have said is when you're fighting Horde, they're going to take away the randomness of the D6, which means, first of all, we need to classify what a Horde unit is or a Horde target. So it could be models over 10, for example, or shooting a unit with more than 10 models. The only problem, or can you see any problems with that, Jack? Straight away with just a classification on the Horde aspect?
Yeah, I think it has to be more than 10. 10's just a Space Marine unit is 10 models. It's a unit, it's not a Horde. I don't know where you draw the line. My gut tells me 20 models, 21 models would be a sensible place to take it. Because if you're then maxing hit with your random weaponry, anything less than that, it's just going to get blown away really quickly. It'd be interesting when you lose the Horde keyword as well. Do you have it at the beginning of the shooting phase and then have it for the whole, or once you drop to 19 models, do you then lose the Horde keyword? That's a weird interaction as well.
Because you wouldn't say, you've got 1 model left from that squad, and all of a sudden they're still getting all these extra benefits, which we're not sure what they're going to be yet. But that would feel a bit odd, wouldn't it? It wouldn't. It would lose that immersion and thematic style of play what they're trying to bring back into the game. So, or are we just going to end up seeing list builds of 19 models per squad every time?
Well, that's it. Where the way you draw the line, and you would do it. You build a list around it to avoid it. So if it was 20 or 15 models, you just drop a model to make sure you don't get affected by the blast weapons. But then in return, you've lost that. Can't max your squad. A GC Cole unit's a good example with the rock saws, the acolytes. You may want to drop to 14 of them, take as many rock saws as you can, so you don't get picked up by blast weapons.
Yeah, but then on Overwatch, you might end up losing too many models, in that you can't string back to get your buffs and stuff. So yeah, potentially that could be, a good way to do that. So in terms of how do we think they could classify a blast weapon? Any ideas, Joe?
I think it's anything that has, I'd say, 2 D3 damage or flat 2 or less would be a blast weapon in my idea. Because so something like a battle cannon, that's a blast, but a melter, which is D6 shots on a night, isn't a blast weapon. Because it's still a concentrated beam.
Yeah.
So anything that I would probably say, anything that rolls D6 shots that explodes on its target. So battle cannons, demolishers.
I say demolishers is a break to your rules. It's D6 damage, but it's definitely a blast weapon though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jack. That's a good point.
But it was. I imagine GW is going to look at the list and be like, "What explodes? Is it a solid shot or is it a
beam?
A beam."
Yeah. So it's not going to be a flamer, is it? Flamer shouldn't be a blast weapon.
No, but then it could be because it still does the same thing. It still just fills a room full of fire.
I mean, I think what we've got to think about, it could literally just be the simplest way of doing it is just to say if it's D6 shots, if it's a D6 shot weapon, so that includes flamers, and you're fighting up against a horde, then they did say they're going to remove some of the randomness. So the prediction from our part, we had a chat about this off camera, wasn't it? Maybe they get a free Catachan reroll. That could be where they re-roll the number of hits to help the probability of getting what you want.
Yeah, I can't remember if I heard it on the live stream or through discussion, but I thought it was max hits, but I can't remember where I heard that from now. So
I remembered saying that was my first suggestion when we were on Discord, so it might have been through that.
I actually, on the Saturday when they did the release video, they said that they would get max shots. So
yeah, I don't know if they did say that, Joe. We can't say that because people tear the podcast
okay,
down from limb to limb.
But the thing is though, I think it has to be on a unit of 20 or more models, because if you think something like a Chaos Knight with 2 battle cannons is putting out 24 shots at a unit of boys, it's just going to wipe the unit in a one.
Yeah, I mean, again, it could be a few things. It could be a Catachan style reroll. It could be roll 2d6, pick the highest. Or it could be what Mark suggested, which I really like, was minimum 3 shots. We've seen that with damage. So if it's d6 shots with a minimum of 3 against Horde, then that again helps out that. It gives you some sort of reliability, doesn't it?
Like the Demolisher, before it got updated, d6 was it's d3 shots. But if it's over 5, it becomes 2d3. If it's over 10, it becomes 3d3 kind of thing. So you get additional dice as it goes up.
Yeah, but we want to see those whirlwinds. People only ever take the D3 variant, don't they? They never take the D6 one. So it would be nice because it's just so unreliable. But I do think they're going to have to just keep it very simple. And they did say there's going to be an index at the back of the codex which is going to classify it. But we need something simpler than just, is it in the index of the rulebook? Because the problem here is when you're at the table, it's very easy to just assume you have it, or assume your opponent has it, or assume your opponent doesn't have it. So that means you've got to get it out, you've got to check. That's 2 to 3 minutes wasted if you have to check every gun. So if you're checking the difference between a thermal cannon and, a plasma destroyer that also has a D6 shot, who has it, who doesn't?
Yeah, I think they mentioned that when they start printing the new codexes, blast will be introduced as a weapon type. So that kind of deals with that over time. But I think it's reliance on everyone's coming into a new edition. Everyone's got to learn. So if you're running a list, I'd recommend that you'd make a note on your, on your army list, which weapons have blast. And be helpful to your opponent. Share that information with them. We're all new. So it might be a question you ask pre-game. Do you have any blast weapons? If you're a Horde army, it's a hot topic, isn't it? I need to know what blast weapons are, where they are, because I want to get rid of them, for example. So yeah, we're all learning at the same pace, aren't we?
Absolutely. No, I think that's a good point. So next up, command points are going to change, as we know. There's going to be apparently more for everyone, and both players are going to start the game with the same amount of command points based on the size of that game. So if it's a 2,000 point game, then you're going to start with X amount of CPs. So guys, predictions. Joe, how many CPs are we going to be starting with? Do you think
12.
You think 12?
I reckon 12.
Why 12?
Because you can fit a brigade in 2,000 points, and that's currently because you get a brigade which gives you 15, but I kind of feel like 15 is like way too much if you're turning up with a single spearhead detachment of stuff, kind of thing.
Well, we don't know how detachments are really going to function.
We don't know how they're going to work.
But you think 12?
12 is a good amount, because if you're pre-game going to be like, okay, I'm getting, if each detachment theoretically is going to cost you additional CP, so I've got 3 detachments in my army, I'm now down to 9.
Okay.
One of those detachments is from one of the codex, I'm down to 8. Now I'm taking an additional warlord trait, I'm down to 7. So you're still starting the game with enough to use stratagems.
Well, so we'll put a little friendly wager on this.
Yeah.
Whoever loses has to make tea and coffee for the week, all right?
You don't make tea and coffee at the moment.
Well, nor do you.
No, so.
Well, we'll start.
We'll start.
Just have a wager,
Yeah.
yeah? Jack, what's your prediction?
20.
20?
Wow.
20.
2,000, but I think some of those will have to be. You'll have to spend some pre-game, which will be buying detachments, buying a second codex, buying warlord traits, relics, putting stuff in reserve. So I think you'll get 20, but you'll only get to the table with say 12 to 15. I reckon around that mark, because I did mention everyone's going to get more CP, and I think typically everyone has 8 to 10 at the moment. So I think it'll be around that. So I think you'll start with 20, and you'll get to the table with between 12 and 15.
Trying to read between the lines, and they said that they want your commanders to have more than just the tactical ability to take an extra warlord trait or relic.
Yeah.
So they want your commanders to be able to do stuff, which means we might see a change in detachments where you can add benefits to your detachment. So invest CPs into that detachment to give it the entire detachment outflank, or like those kind of universal rules we've seen. We might be able to have things like that, which are now universal stratagems for universal detachments. So that therefore keeps things like Vigilus Ablaze, Vigilus Defiance still active, right?
I think they mentioned, with linking onto strategic reserves, that the more time you give it, the better position you can get into. They get around the sides and coming on from enemy deployment zone. So I'm really hoping, for example, say an Outrider detachment, you spend 3 CP on it, but the whole thing can outflank, but you can do it a turn sooner because it's all fast attack. So and that makes it's flavorful, it's right. Your fast attack units aren't typically your ones that do a sucker punch either. So I think that could work quite nicely as an example. I don't know what you do with some of the other detachments, but I think that could be really. I'd really hope to see that kind of thing coming in. That'd be great.
Yeah, that could be nice little. That would be quite strategic. I had a little prediction with that. I mean, I think we're going to start with 15 CPs. And the reason why I think 15 is because I feel like that is enough to keep the current CP hungry armies happy, like your orcs, like your
Blood Angels,
happy, like where you would normally take double battalion and maybe another, and then your 3 additional. You're roughly about 14, 15 CPs. So I think that keeps the CP hungry armies where they're at, but it also gives like Custodes a bit of a bump up rather than just getting a standard 6 or whatever they get. They get a little bit more to play with. So I think we're going to see 15. So you've said 12, I said 15, Jack said 20. We'll see who is the victor out of our little wager here. So, and then in terms of what you said there, Jack, about bringing stuff on from reserves, we may see something like turn 1, you can come in from your own board edge. And we might see turn 2 to 3 from the edges, and then turn 4 onwards maybe from your opponent's board edge.
Will that get FAQ'd very quickly though? Because they got rid of the first turn deployment.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just putting their 3 Ravagers in reserve to keep them protected.
It wasn't that was the problem, because you can still do that now. Yeah. The problem was you can put everything in reserve, come down turn 1 and kill your opponent from 9 inches away. So it was the alpha strike that was the problem, not the, like, if you've got, I don't know, like a Land Raider in reserve and he drives onto the battlefield a little bit slower than the rest of your army.
It was a big problem with the Ravagers, because you put them in deep strike turn 1, and then you dropped on turn 1, you don't lose a round of shooting. So I think because that's what happened, is you knew you had them safe, and then you had no negative for it. But then if you could put units in reserve yourself, then it doesn't matter so much that it can come on, because my Ravagers will come on and destroy your tank, but actually I'm going second, I put my tank in reserve anyway. So I think it'll make some interesting pre-game decisions, and who goes first and who goes second. It makes it a bit more interesting, because I'm going to wait till you declare your reserves first. Then that might dictate what I put in reserve. So it's kind of that pre-game before the game, which is always great.
The question is there going to be a seize roll still?
I think so.
Yeah, you think?
I reckon they'll keep it in, just because it's been in the game forever.
But then, are we going to play it?
I think it will come back. I think in the ITC it'll come back. It just keeps you a bit honest. It keeps you can't just front line. I think it's too strong having it without the Cs. I think the risk of having it adds a lot to the game.
Putting the Cs in there then makes stratagems like, is it Phantasm for Craft World Elder, where you can rearrange your army. So I've been seized on. Okay, I'm going to rearrange stuff. It still makes those stratagems viable, kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I must admit, I have enjoyed the game without Cs in it. Either way, I've enjoyed it. Like, I've enjoyed going second, and I've enjoyed going first.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I must admit, I don't get that stupid feeling of, oh, you're going to Cs. So I must admit, after playing it now for this long, I do enjoy not having it.
I prefer having it gone entirely, because there's so many times when I've played a game, I've deployed, I've been seized on, and I don't hate that person, but I've got some strong feelings against them. I'm like, why?
So
why did you do this to me?
Wasn't there a funny story, Jack, with you when you were playing your Raven Guard and you seized?
Yeah.
It was a Raven Guard mirror match. Yeah, so I deployed to go second. I thought, well, I'll roll for it, seized, and realised I couldn't do anything because he deployed first and completely zoned out the centre of the board, so I couldn't move my Centurions up to mid-board. Actually, no, I put everything in deep strike. So I seized, and it lost me the game. It was stupid.
You just go, okay, I'll try and seize. You're like, what? I've just rolled it. I can't go back now.
Yeah. I think it will stay in the game. But certain organisers may look to remove it still. But I think it'll still be in the core rules, I think.
Yeah.
I always like had a conversation with someone, they like the idea of having a negative to seize. Like, if you try and seize, that's great. But if you fail it, then your entire army is like -1 to hit or something, because you've rushed in there, you've gone all guns blazing, and it's failed for you.
Yeah, but we know people like Ben Jones that wouldn't even happen to.
Yeah,
he would just be like, seize.
Yeah. But like, I prefer not having it in that, because so at the moment you get forced to go second, you get to reroll the dice for deployment, so you know where you're going, you can build that defence kind of thing. Or you could choose to go first, you know your opponent's going to be in a better strategic position for them, but you have more control over the flow from the beginning. So.
Yeah, it's just an interesting one, because obviously with Mike Brandt coming on to help with the events of GW, and he did sort of say we may start to see like a unanimous gameplay amongst Europe, West Coast, East Coast, all that stuff in the States. It's who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? Are we all going to literally just go, this is the best mission pack ever, let's all jump on board with it? Or are we going to go, do you know what, actually the ITC mission pack or the WTC mission pack is still the go-to one for wherever you're at, or whatever it might be, I don't know, who knows? So, but anyway, so let's move on from that. Overwatch is going to change. They didn't really say too much, did they, Jack, apart from Overwatch is going to change? Any predictions on how they may change it?
Yeah, I think we touched on it the other day, but I reckon they'll remove rerolls from Overwatch just flat, which I think is a sensible thing to do. It just adds another. It's with 4 rerolls on the Overwatch, it adds another layer of time and damage, more importantly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just go right. Overwatch, you hit on 6s, no rerolls, much like Cool. The ad mech doesn't allow Overwatch reroll on Overwatch. So I could see that just being flat across the game, because trying to charge a Space Marine castle, if you don't have a deny Overwatch, you're not going to make it with a chapter master. So, that says the Tau player that can get reroll 1s on the Overwatch. I'm happy that goes away. It just streamlined the game a bit.
Yeah, I think that would be nice to remove that aspect of the game, or like Master Crafters, where you can reroll a hit, reroll a wound, and it's just time, and you just want to be able to get that phase over with quickly. Or what we might see is that you have to forfeit your shooting phase in order to get it.
I think at that point you'd need to be hitting it with full ballistic skill, because you'd never make that choice, would you?
No, there might be like a couple of matchups, but like orcs that are going to jump in, blood angels that you feel like might jump out of terrain and then try and do it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a nice idea that the deep striking is an interesting one. Go, actually, I won't shoot because I've got no valid targets, and I'll save it for my Overwatch.
Who knows?
Or you just get +1, so you're hitting on 5s, kind of thing.
Yeah, or like it might just be like Tau can shoot and Overwatch, because let's be honest, Overwatch is Tau's combat phase, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the only way they can compete in that phase.
So otherwise, then actually, there would be some armies that wouldn't care if they got Overwatch or not. So, it is one of those things that they could do it. Maybe there are some exceptions to the rule, like Marines maybe, or perhaps maybe you have to be stood still. You have to be counted stationary in order to Overwatch.
I'd like them to take range out of the equation for Overwatch. Because Flamers being 8-inch range, you don't see them very often, because there's so many units in the game that deep striking 9 inches away and charge you. And you're like, there's no point taking Flamers because I'm never going to use them. But they're still running at you. Like, they've still got to cross that distance. Once they've moved that inch, the 9 inch, then the Flamer's going to be efficient.
Joe, they're there and then they just appear.
Yeah, they just like teleport in. Like, you're just like, they're running at me now. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to prepare myself to get murdered by blood angels. No, you'd be like, I'm going to flame him as soon as I can see the whites in his eyes. He's going down.
I wouldn't mind that, to be honest.
Yeah. Because it makes some guns actually efficient at doing something.
Yes. Yeah, because obviously we've seen it with long range marksmen and stuff where you minus off, or you get +3 range. It would ruin my dream of Harlequins removing 6 inches off those range, and so you've got a 2-inch flamer, so I can make a 2.1 inch charge.
That's still good in the long range game.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a bad prediction. I think you've got to take something away from it, like you said, the full rerolls though.
Yeah.
Especially like if you've ever charged 12 Ultramarines aggressors with Calgar and a Lieutenant. It's just like, I'm not going to bother.
No, you don't do that.
Like, he's going to shoot me again in a minute anyway.
Yeah.
I'll just save him 40 minutes of rolling dice.
Yeah, or maybe Flamers don't automatically hit in Overwatch.
No, they should. It's fire.
Yeah, well, maybe you'd be doing it sporadically. Chucking. Anyway, we're getting off topic. So the other thing they said is modifiers. So modifiers are going to change to a maximum of +1. So you can't get +2 to hit now, and you can't get more than -1 to hit either. So it's going to be stacked at a minus or a +1, and that goes to hit and wound, I think. So I also hope that is No, I'm not sure about the whole damage thing, but they did just say hit and wound. Jack, initial thoughts on that?
I thought it was a strange one because I think shortly before or shortly after they confirmed that 6 is always hit. So, you know, as a Tau player, facing a -3 to hit possessed bomb was infuriating because I couldn't interact with it because I'm hitting on 7s. I'd be happy just to hit on 6s. I think that's fine. So I'm not sure how I feel about the capping of the pluses and minuses. I think it's going to change the swing of certain armies and certain matchups quite considerably. Eldar being one of them that are probably on the rough end of that stick, big time, because the whole thing is being agile and hard to hit. If you take that away from them, they'll just get hit hard, and they don't have the defensive capability to deal with it. So,
like they mentioned about flies being really obnoxious, but that was 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's using them that much.
They're not that prevalent anymore where they're a real big issue.
I think it's going to be the amount of pluses and minuses you can put on yourself is locked. So
Yeah.
because then a heavy weapon can move, still has -1 on itself, but that's it. So it can shoot at a plane
Just as well as the grot in front of you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whereas if you go, I've made myself -1 to hit, and you've moved with a heavy weapon, you still get that -1. So now it's -2. Because then,
Yeah.
because the whole everyone hits on 6s doesn't make sense then.
No.
Because the average ballista skill in the game is 4.
Same as using a power fist in combat, right?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to hit, let's say, a unit with, let's say you're trying to hit Howling Banshees with the -1 to hit power on. And actually, let's say you use lightning fast reflexes on them or whatever, and you hit them with that power fist. Well, yeah, they're just going to hit on force. So he is completely. You've got an unwieldy weapon now. That unit's no harder to hit from the guy with the chainsword or the power fist in that squad. You're still hitting on the same, which feels a bit weird. So it needs to be like you said with that. If you're choosing a weapon. That gives you a modifier, you keep it, and then any defensive abilities that you've got can only ever be -1 to... Like the Thunderfire Tremor Shell is -1 to wound. So what if that's shooting, Harlequins, which are also -1 to wound? Is it just going to be -1 to wound? I don't know. So...
I think looking forward to seeing a bit more information on that. It's it feels like it's simplifying the game a bit too much. I don't know where they're going with this plus and minus modifiers. I was very surprised by it, so I'm looking forward to finding out more.
It just made me question a lot of other things. I couldn't get my head around the whole. Well, if I move with a heavy weapon, then you may as well just move anyway against an army that's -1 to hit. That's what I just didn't get. That's why my brain started to go in different ways of how you might do it. And you can't just go, oh well, every monster and vehicle gets Power the Machine Spirit. Which they could do.
Oh, yeah, that'd be too good.
That would be too good, yeah. I don't know. Right, so I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? Really, that they covered. I mean, they spoke about an app, which sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's it produces a list for you that's then easily recognised by the tournament apps that are out there. That I think that they say when you buy a book, you get a digital copy.
Yeah, I think that you get a code, which then you put into the app.
And if that digital copy is constantly live, happy days. I don't have to go look for FAQs. I know with confidence that I look on my app, and that is the most up-to-date rules. That'll make things a lot simpler.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, even if you don't have maybe that. And it could be a subscription service. They might do that. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, the Age of Sigmar one is like 99p a month, and you get all the core basic rules for the units, but you don't get the
flavors.
The flavors you don't get they're like in Age of Sigmar they got battalion bonuses. You don't get that stuff.
Yeah,
but you get the
like stratagems or warlord traits and all that kind of stuff. You got to buy the book, which is fine.
Yeah, it would be good if you had that because then let's say you're at the tabletop and you want to check a points value of a unit, you can just quickly do it for your opponent.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be there. You can go, oh, I don't have a smartphone with the app and my book's outdated if you wanted to look at there. I don't know. There's options, but Yeah, very excited. I think that's everything that we've, we might have missed a couple of little things, but like I said, they spoke a lot about Crusade and other elements like that. But guys, Jack, thanks so much for coming on the show again.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Joe, thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
No
It
problem.
is my job now, so I've got to be here anyway. But
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be allowed to be on the podcast.
That's okay, mate.
Yeah.
That's all right. Don't you worry. That's fine, mate. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And if you wouldn't mind, please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, all those places where you listen. You can watch this as a video cast over on YouTube. The show is Vanguard Tactics. And we're going to put up our show notes and predictions in a written form, which will be on our blog post, which is www.vanguardtactics.com/blog/EP16. Go and check that out, and you can download all of our show notes from this. Also, what we're going to be doing is a How to Play 9th edition series completely for free in the same style that we do our Academy, so you can really get up to speed with 9th edition as soon as it drops. And if you want to get on the mailing list to get that free video course, you may have done the ITC, the one that I did about, well, literally 12 months ago then all you need to do is head over to any of those blog pages and you'll see the link to sign up. It will also be on the home page of the website where you can sign up for this. And it's going to be a free course, so maybe there's a few little hints and tricks from our perspective that you might want to incorporate in your game, or things to think about to help you with your list design, or really get your head around this new edition. But it's extremely exciting times, and that will be coming out soon. So until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you then. Take care.